Here we go. A group of friends not knowing what we're doing. So I'm Richard, and more of my friends, some of you will know them, some of you won't know. And we don't know what we're going to say today. We're just going to be aware of this open space, at least I am, and see what emerges out of this one opening. So we thought we might introduce ourselves. I'm Richard, you know, I'm in London, and I came across seeing 1970, met Douglas Harding, and have been looking here on and off ever since, finding out what it means. I figured it out. So, Bill, would you like to go first, just to introduce yourself? And
Okay, hi, my name's Bill. I've known Richard a long time. I knew Douglas for a while, and this is always great to meet up with friends and just see what's on the boil for them, and share what's going on from this emptiness. Yeah.
brilliant, thank you. Karen in America.
Greetings from Connecticut. I'm looking forward to today's conversation, having just gone through the holidays while being sick. So there was a tremendous amount of activity in my house, and a real struggle to be present. And having the headless experience, it was almost an enforced headless experience, because I had no extra energy for my ego to project me. I could only just manage being present, and I recalled often in the past when I have been slammed with a bad flu or cold, I have liked myself better, and have even made the prayer, when I get well, can my ego still stay sick? And now I realize it's not that I wanted it to be sick, it's that I wanted to not, well, I didn't have the energy to project who I was and my opinions and, you know, kind of just the repartee engagement that I normally feel obliged or compelled to do. I only had energy to just be space, and it was kind of amazing to go through the whole holidays that way, even with 30 people in the house. I realized no one missed my pushing myself on them, and there was so much love, you know, in the house. At the end of the night, when people were leaving, it was just 5 minutes of people hugging each other, and not, you know, a second hug, a third hug, and there was just so much warmth and love and for everyone. And I realized it was, I kind of got into the headless space and realized I did not have to respond when someone even spoke to me. I could just look at them and smile, which is all that I had the energy to do, but it was more than sufficient. So that was really a wonderful lesson for the holidays.
Thank you. Thank you. Mary? Unmuting.
Yes, I live in Perth in Western Australia with my husband Sam, and we came across the Headless Way when Richard gave a workshop in 2005 here at the invitation of a couple of friends of ours. And after many years of seeking and being on the path and having a spiritual life and all that, it was the pointing experiment just pointed back to home, where I had completely overlooked the obvious. So it was a great relief and also very funny at the time.
Great, thank you. Well, Sam?
Yes, I'm Mary's husband. Where I'm downstairs, she's upstairs. We have to separate because otherwise our sound gets mixed up. But yes, I'm very grateful to Richard for showing me this. It's been an amazing relief, resource, source of entertainment, constant challenge, and a wonderful unfolding as I've stayed with it. It never gets old. It's always new. It's never different, and it's never the same. So the most wonderful treasure. It's like winning the lottery.
Brilliant, thank you. Katerina?
Hi, Katarina, normally from Holland speaking, but now yesterday France came to me. It was a real wonderful journey we had from a snowy Holland in a nice, quiet and dry France, and it all came to us very smoothly, so it was wonderful. And now we're in France, and I met Douglas the first time in 72, and it has been a long journey of looking and seeing and not seeing and doing all different things, and it's still a journey.
Great, thank you, Katerina. And Karen? Karen, and you have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, so unmuted. I'm in Holland too, still in the snow, and I discovered the Headless Way about 3 years ago, and experiments are astonishing. I think all trace of doubt disappeared, and like Mary said, it's the end of the spiritual life, but I think a true spiritual life started then, and that's very ordinary, just seeing what is from this space that I am, what appears every moment, and that is so, and it's wonderful. It's no journey, and it is a journey, and it keeps on being tremendously interesting. And also sharing it with you guys. I have this ear thing that falls out, but anyway, okay. I'm good.
Thank you, thank you. So we're just see what happens, being aware of this one space. Lovely to share the space with you all.
Yes. No.
Richard, this is being recorded and archived, correct? So that other people might enjoy it. I was thinking, in case people have no clue what we're talking about, if they've come across this video, that it might be useful to at least do the a pointing experiment at the beginning, so that people don't have to wonder what we're talking about.
Would you like to take us through it, Karen?
I was thinking you would probably respond thusly. So, unless someone else volunteers.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Then begin by picking a point, any point of the wall or the furthest distance that you can see. And actually, you have to do it. You can't just listen. You have to actually do this, because this is your instrument of enlightenment. Point to a spot, a thing. I'm looking at a tree. And whatever it is you're looking at, you notice that it has a shape, it has a form and a color, probably a substance that you're aware of, and even a texture you may be aware of. So just take that form in for a moment and notice the gap between where your finger is and the object. Now come midway between the 2 points, between you and that distant point. Point at something closer. And again, do the same observation of its shape, its color. You might imagine its texture. It has a function. I'm looking at a road. Now come to the floor. A point on the floor. And again, you know that to be a thing, defined shape, color, form, texture. Just observe it. Now come to your body and point to your foot, which you know well. Take in the shape of your foot, color, maybe even wiggle it. There it is. It is an it. Now point to your knee. It's probably covered, but you know it's there. Or look at the whole shape that you're looking at, the texture, the thingness of it. It's a definable object. Now come up to the middle of your chest. You can still see. Point to your chest. And look down at all you can see. See the form, the shape, color. You may even have a sensation of it. Now bring your finger up and point to the place from which you are looking out of. And for me, I'm pointing to a place without form, without shape, without texture, without color. And yet it is filled with everything that we have been pointing at.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, everyone has the experience. It may blow you away, or it may just be amusing, or it may be totally insignificant to you. For me, it was well, I'm lacking words. But there are words in Douglas Harding's book, Head Off Stress, which I'm reading, that I just came across the other day when he did the finger pointing experiment. And he said, look now at your immensity. Look from your immensity. What nuclear blast can match this quiet explosion? And that's what it was for me. A sudden understanding of who I am before I was even born. So it was a very strong moment that suddenly made me understand all of the spiritual books and teachings and study that I had been doing for the 7 years prior.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. I'm going to suggest people just unmute their mic and then you can respond when you like, unless we get lots of sound. Yes, what an amazingly simple journey from form to the formless. And you get home, like you're saying, Karen, and I'll switch to them. You get home to this point, and everything is here. What a blessing.
I'm surprised after doing it so many times. You know, every time like this time is like, again, seeing it for the first time. And discovering it for the first time and seeing that it really is so, and it's so amazing. It never is boring in the sense of, oh gosh. Well, you know, at start I think, oh gosh, we're going to do it again. But the moment I really look,
It's really.
So it makes everything fresh and new, doesn't it? Every time you look.
Yes, so you're talking about being in these social situations over Christmas. I had to go to the family of my daughter's husband, and to be really surrounded by people who needed to fill the silence, and who would search somewhat desperately to find a topic, and to have this place to come to where it's okay, what they're doing is okay, and whatever you choose to do is okay, because there's no judgment here. And that, for me, is such a beauty, that here I am released from the necessity to judge. But only here. You know, the world is full, unnecessarily full of judgment, isn't it? Otherwise we don't. Discrimination has its place. But how wonderful to be allowed to come back home to this place where one is happy, one's fine, one's nothing to gain, nothing to lose. And in those situations, one does appreciate the pain of compulsive social talking.
Yeah.
It's really a stressful thing to have to do.
Yes, it's lovely just to be able to be present. And the other thing I find is that I don't find people are made uncomfortable by one's silence if one just stays with this and is attentive. It's not like you're being withdrawn or withholding yourself in any way. In fact, just the opposite. It's like you're bestowing a benediction on the proceedings just by noticing who's noticing it. And that too is a kind of a relief. And then of course you do participate, you do say things, but it's not, as you say, Bill, from that feeling of being obliged to. It's because it's just an expression of what's going on. It's part of, just like all of those little ones are talking, your little one will talk too. So it is lovely in social situations. I find it is absolutely a very wonderful resource.
And we make this so quickly into an attitude, but if one just points here, and as Douglas used to say, that I'm built open, I'm built open. And how do you find it is for you? Are you built open? No choice. Or are you not? And what I find, whenever I just choose to do this, is I'm built open. Whatever my attitude, so that's what, it seems to me, that's the difference between having an open attitude and actually being built open. Because you can be relatively open, relatively closed.
Nice.
It's non-discretionary.
Yeah. It is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and in public it's kind of a little weird to be doing this a lot, so I find that I do this,
Oh yeah. It would look a little odd if I was to do that.
Well, you can rub your eyes or something, Yes, I used to have my hair short, but now that it's long, I find it's very useful.
I find these social situations are so much easier since I've been headless, because I can just sit back and really enjoy the gathering of people and look around and just enjoy being with people, and I don't need to say much. Since headlessness, I've also become aware of how we play roles, or we have certain roles to play. Like I have a certain body in a certain setup, and I'm have a certain job and certain position in life, and I'm in this society in Western Australia. So there's certain things that I just do, and it's become more like fulfilling a role. It's not me. It's not particular to me, but it's just the part of the setup that I found myself. I have a body, I'm here in this body, I have this view out, and this is the setup for it. So you go along to family dues and you sit there and your Auntie Mary and it's really nice. People have a certain attitude to you, but it's really great to be part of these family groups and just to appreciate being there with them.
Yeah, it's funny too, isn't it? To be Auntie Mary or Grandpa Bill, as I am. It's basically amusing. And one feels not the least inclined to challenge it or be worried about it. It's not to be taken seriously, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I find it so interesting to talk with people. Really, to have things you have together, and you find new people and new views, and it's all so interesting because I'm not in the way.
That's a good, yes, you're not in the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the feeling of relief from my own ego I felt over while being sick. Just relief.
Yeah.
I was standing in line waiting for to place an order for some soup at a restaurant, and a woman who I vaguely know enough to say hello came up, and I said, Merry Christmas. And she said, oh, well, I'm agnostic, you know. And normally I would have, well, have a doubtful Christmas then. You know, I mean, I would have tried to say something, haha, you know. And I just didn't have the energy. And I just looked at her and let her be an agnostic, you know. And then she looked back at me with a little curiosity because I was just there. And
why aren't you fighting me?
Yeah, you know, I'm offering you a debate, you know, and I don't have the energy, and I don't care what you are, and it's just like nice to see you and smile into your face, and then she smiled at me, and then I just said, what are you doing for Christmas, you know, and then of course she was doing a whole Christmas thing. Agnostic or not, she has a family and a dog, and and then she just started like just opening up and becoming happy and telling me about her dog she found at a shelter, and, you know, just and she, I know she was thinking, wow, this is really nice, because she was expressing that happiness at just being happy, you know. And all I said was Merry Christmas. It was really nice. It was, and you just used the word, Sam, a benediction, you know, and it felt like that. It didn't feel like I personally was giving a benediction, but that there was grace in the moment by having just being space for it instead of directing it or manipulating it.
Yes, it strikes me as you're talking, Karen, how simple it is. Because I was listening to you, looking at you on the screen, and I just thought, face to no face. How simple is that? I mean, gosh, what a relief. And yesterday and today I've had this feeling that realizations I've had recently are of weight. And then I had this very comforting thought that new ones will come. And then I was just aware, all it is just, you don't see your head. It removed this burden, as it were, from my shoulders. Gosh, I mean, how simple is that? No head. Oh.
Okay, great.
And to be with someone and just have no head, you know, just face to no face. It is so kind of a relief. Like Bill says, you don't have to have anything prepared, or really, you know, or like you were in the line there with the person.
Beautiful.
Especially with family, family relationships can be so loaded with the past and, gosh, all the experiences you went through and judgment, and then just dropping the whole thing and being space, just as you say, Richard. It's such a fresh and open start. And it's beautiful. And it's like dropping a burden. It's not here. There's nothing here. And then there's just the other person as he or she appears in that moment.
Yes. I love this video hangout format because I see myself as on the screen there with all of you. And here is this openness. And you're all happening in it. And it places so physically Richard amongst you all, and then
Yes.
isn't that amazing? I mean, one space, and it seems many views out.
Yes.
Yes.
Many voices telling all these experiences, stories from their particular point of view. It's so beautiful.
There's one of the things I find myself doing quite a lot, really, because I have a background as brought up in a Christian family, and people of my age really got it fairly frequently and in quite large doses. So I've got a lot of offhand knowledge of bits and bobs of spirituality, and thinking about that thing where in Christian terms, not only Christian terms, they say that God is all-knowing. Now, that always made me extremely uncomfortable. You know, I didn't want God to know what I was up to a lot of the time. But if one transposes this, then what it becomes is each moment is authorized. Each moment is a spiritual moment. There is no separate spiritual life. That all of life is played out within the spirit, if you want to call it that, this one. And one speaks from different positions. Sometimes one's speaking as a person. Sometimes one's speaking as a family member or as an employee, and sometimes one's speaking as the Almighty. And in that sense, one has access to this, again, unbounded yes, which is here. And that one authorizes and penetrates everything. There is nowhere that is opaque to the Spirit. So all of a sudden, God knows everything. It's just everything is okay. And I find increasingly that if one just hangs on to those teachings that have been around for 1,000 or 2 years, bang, once in a while one understands one. And it's not what one thought at all. I don't know if that's... Of course, I know some of us are fonder of religion than others. You know.
Well, you know, that is a theistic way of expressing it. But there are other. There's a beautiful way of saying it from the Zen tradition, which is saying exactly the same thing from Dogen Zenji. He said, "The moon is the same old moon. The trees are the same old trees. But I've become the thingness of all the things I see."
Right.
And he talked about, he said, you know, enlightenment is intimacy with all things, which is exactly what you said in different words. And it's like we have the inside story of everything, and we are completely one with that which knows everything, by which everything is known. It's a different way of, it doesn't mean that we know everything. Like, I don't know what you're thinking, I don't know what's on the other side of that, you know, I don't know what's out there in the dark. But whatever is known by this, that I am. So in that sense, I am omniscient. It's cool. I get to have the experience of surprise and not knowing stuff, while at the same time being omniscient. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, that's a real nice juxtaposition of ways of speaking.
The beautiful thing is with this, though, I mean, I can completely understand the theistic way of talking, and I really value it. I mean, it's lovely. It's not something that unlike you, I wasn't brought up in that tradition, and you know, I have probably a critique of a lot of you know, belief-based religion. That's just, but nevertheless, that doesn't mean that I can't understand what someone like Thomas Traherne or Meister Eckhart is talking about when they're talking in their terms. It's just another language, and it maps completely perfectly onto this experience, just as the Zen language does. It's just like different software. It's amazing. Once you have the experience, the words don't matter. That you can access. You know, you can come out from any. Yeah,
they pop up now and again, and you go, "Wow!"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The fact that go on, Sam.
I was just going to say I've come to really love a lot of the sayings in the gospel, like "There shall be time no longer." When he was asked in the gospel stories, when the character of Jesus is asked, what is the kingdom of heaven like, and he says, "There shall be time no longer." That's so beautiful. Yes. And the other thing is the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Well, yes, it is.
It's our secret sign.
Yeah.
Can't go there, Richard.
Oh, Bill, we already have the equivalent. Sorry, I'll just tell Bill this because he might not have heard it. In our group in Perth, we have a secret handshake where we just put our hands past the other person's head.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Would you mind repeating that? You froze out for a second and I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry, yes. You know how the Masons have this secret, I don't know what it is, a secret handshake.
Yes.
I thought it would be amusing to have a headless secret handshake. So, and it came out of some experiments we did that Richard introduced at the last gathering, where you actually take on board the fact that the other person is having the same experience as you of himself, and you express that to that person. It's like you don't have direct access to that, but you kind of have to give that person credit for having the same experience. And we do that, but you know, it's part of the theory of mind. In this case, it's the theory of no mind. And this was just a shorthand way of doing that, because when you do that, your hand goes past the other person's head, so you don't get the experience of your hand going into their void, but you kind of know that it is, and you have a confirmatory thing coming, you know, past your head, and you can see their hand going into your void. So it's a really lovely way of the two.
Instead of a handshake, it's.
Yeah, it's a void shake, you know. And it's lovely because you kind of it's like instead of saying you know, I acknowledge the God within or something like that, you just say g'day.
I love that.
Well, how do you do?
Fine.
We could do the equivalent on screen by just doing this.
Yeah.
Hey! Oh, the mug. Oh my goodness, we could make some hats, couldn't we?
Oh, don't go there. You told.
Oh, well, actually, there was a friend that came and saw me a week ago or so. I mentioned him before, I think, but he was in a performance in London. He was over from Poland. And he came and visited me. And one of the things was very funny. He had never done the tube, so we did the tube together. Gosh, it's such a brilliant thing. But he was saying that he was doing workshops with people. And in one of the workshops, he got his hat and he put it in the middle of the room. He said, "This is a magic hat, and anyone who puts it on, it will magically cover the whole universe." And so people picked it up and put it on, and some had very they didn't quite know. You know, he didn't really explain it. But when you put it on, you could see the brim coming out from the void. So it did cover the universe. And other people didn't know what it was about. And there were a couple of people who refused to do it.
Ah.
So, yeah.
Bill, when you said we could make some hats, I instantly had an image of a square that actually is a mirror surface with the face cut out, that if you put on, the person looking at you would see themselves, reflected next to your face.
Mm-hmm. Ah, okay.
That's more of a wimple than a hat, but yeah, I think that would work.
Yes.
I was reading Head of Stress, and the 2 chapters this week. One was on movement, and the other was on wealth. And the movement one, we all know, you do the turning one and the world moves and everything. But one of the things that Douglas invited you to do was to get a mirror. I've got little mirrors. And hold it out, and you see that your face moves around the ceiling and the floor, and it's mobile, and you're still. And then I did something that I don't remember doing before. I held it out at arm's length, you see. And then I did the turning experiment. I can see my face there. And as I turned, the room was spinning by, and there was my Richard out there, and I was still here. It was really dramatic.
Oh, by the way, I meant to mention there was a scene in The Hobbit where they did the tube inadvertently. The 2 characters were talking to each other through a hole in the wall, and it shot from one character to the other, and all you could see was the character's face in the tube, with the tube coming back to the camera.
Great.
So when you go and see the latest Hobbit film, you can look out for that scene.
Okay.
How many have there been?
That's in the Hobbit series. That's the 3rd one. So there have been 2 previous ones. So
I had a thought the other day about. I can't quite make the connection of how I got there from what you said, except it's movies and kids watching movies. And all these video games that the kids play where they have an avatar and completely identify with the avatar and have the avatar running around killing and exploding, and but actually feeling the emotions, like when their avatar is killed or when their avatar is in danger. It's a very short conceptual leap to understanding that this is my avatar. And I suddenly felt very hopeful for all these kids who seem immersed in this game, that it's such a short conceptual leap to fully understand that this is your avatar.
Yeah, it's even better than that. That's wonderful. But there's also, in most games, you can choose between the 3rd person and the 1st person view of the game, and they actually call it that. So you can actually move. Some games are they're just in the 1st person. So you don't see yourself. You just see your arm or your legs, or you see the 1st person view.
Okay.
But there are other games where you look at yourself from behind and above, and that's the 3rd person view, and you can swap between the 2. And
both of those.
So the idea of what the 1st person view is coming into our culture now through games. And also, I was doing a shoot with some people who hire out a drone to take pictures. Those little helicopter droney things, and we were taking pictures. And I was talking to the guy operating it, and he was operating it in the 3rd person mode, and he said they have to do that. Due to the airspace laws, they have to keep the drone in line of sight. He said if he was allowed to, he wouldn't bother with that. He'd just put on a VR mask and just operate the drone from its own point of view, which you can also do. So, and he called that first person view. He said, I much prefer the 1st person view when I'm flying. And I almost said, I much prefer the 1st person view when I'm living.
Wonderful.
That was the first thing that Richard said when he was doing the talk, that really hammered home what we'd just done with the pointing. It was, he said, this is a first-person experience. And I suddenly realized that the pointing in the headless was kind of a way in, but what was really being pointed at was what am I like from my own point of view? I mean, it's so simple and so explosive and so direct. It's what all of the teachings are designed to get you to. And it just, it's really not about not having a head, because people argue about that. They say, of course you've got a head and blah, blah, blah. But really and you don't from your own point of view. You've got a universe instead of a head. But the point is, what is it like to be you from your point of view? What's it really like? And why do we overlook that? Why have we been talked out of noticing that? That's very interesting. We've kind of, the ticket to socialization has been that we've had to suppress this view of ourselves. It's very interesting.
But I would say that we never identified it. It's like when they say something dawns on you, and this dawns. So it feels that way to me. That coming, it's like one had to travel the circle from no self through self back to self and no self.
Absolutely, yeah.
To reconnect with oneself at 0 years old is fabulous. I mean, that's another aspect of this.
Yes, and I was a heavy participant in the socialization of a child. During our Christmas party, I had, for a 6-year-old guest, I had sewn a beautiful dress for her. I mean, it was beyond a costume. It was a beautiful. It was a complicated pattern. It was a dress, a princess dress, and so she arrived dressed and wearing these little plastic shoes that aren't really meant for anything but dress up, and wouldn't really stay on her feet. But I tied them on with ribbons so they would stay on her feet, and they were totally uncomfortable. But she was insisting on wearing them because it was she was a princess, and these were her princess shoes. And she's normally very shy, but I said, "Oh, Violet, come! They want into the room," and she was shy, and I held out my hand. I said, "But they want to see your dress." And so she realized, yes, it was important that she come. So she held out her hand, and I entered, and there's these 2 tall kids, in their 20s, they're 6 feet each, and I said, I would like to introduce Princess Violet to Lord Austin and Lord Ian. And she kind of shyly smiled, and I said, "You may bow to Princess Violet," and they both bowed. She was just in heaven, And then later on, I said to her, "Well, you can take your shoes off, Violet, because everyone's seen them now." "Okay," she said, and she took her shoes off. And then a few minutes later, she came racing like Cinderella at the ball, into the room. "Not everybody's seen them! Not everybody's seen them!" And 2 more people had arrived. I had to get the shoes back on, so that they would get the whole, that it was just so delightful to see this no head taking on a head, that of Princess Violet. It was very sweet. But so she's heading into it full bore. And,
I think it's so useful to have the map of the 4 stages, isn't it? The baby, the child, the adult, and the seer. And because it places the seeing experience, which is, as Bill was saying, both the baby and the adult, the no self and the self together. It places it as a natural development. And we're all seeing here this open space, and we're also all adults and self-conscious. And what a natural thing it is for all of us to kind of include this awareness of our true self in our lives now and explore what it's like to be the one being a person, or a person being the one, or something.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it?
Mm.
I don't think any of us have remotely thought that we might be coming to the end of that one. I mean, that's for me, it's been no effort to keep with this, because it is just, compared with being what you are for yourself, nothing holds so much fascination and interest, because it's our vital, that's our life, isn't it? That is truly our life, is to be ourselves. What's it like? That's a good question.
And the fact that all of us have access to this, total access, whenever we want. They're for anyone on the planet. I mean, obviously, once you see it, you see everyone potentially can explore this
Yes,
condition.
it completely takes away any sense of competition, even ego positioning. We want this for everyone. We want this for everyone.
So that makes it so good that this is not this group of people that we are at this moment. It's not an exclusive thing, or not at all. It's just we have looked and we have seen, and anybody can do that right now and see the same thing and join this discussion and talk about their point of view, and that's what I find so wonderful.
And experience the great relaxation, the great relief. Relief is the word that I used constantly at the beginning of having this experience. What a relief. To be unburdened by, as you say, Richard, this 7 pounds of churning.
But the non-exclusive... Sorry, you go ahead, Richard.
Well, I was just saying that each of us expresses it differently, and that is understood, isn't it? As soon as you see this, you realize your understanding and the way that you respond is going to be different from anybody else, really.
What I find so great about those 4 stages also is that it clarifies that you don't need to get rid of what I am as a third person, or I as a person, or how I operate in the world with my character and my past, my whole conditioning and the whole stuff, because I had that misunderstanding for so long that something should be changed, or I should be different, and but those 2 point of views exist together, and it's just that where I really am, is here, and that is this space. But naturally, when somebody's speaking to me, he sees a woman and addresses her like that, and that's fine. That's just how things are built. It's not my creation. I mean, that's just how it appears. Out of this space comes this body, and you guys see my head on the screen, and I see it too. Quite amazingly. Yeah.
We don't need to be perfect to see this.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, really.
Thank goodness, yes.
But I kind of relate that, that also connects it to the non-exclusivity aspect of this, the openness of it. It means that there's no kind of special conditions that we need to fulfill in order to have this. And I too, Karen, had the idea for a long time during my search that I had to be a certain way to see this properly. And I got the impression, especially from the guru I was with, that enlightenment was like this incredibly precious flame that you'd somehow contain inside yourself, and you'd carry it very, very gingerly, and you'd have to look after it, and then if you were a very gifted person, you could maybe share it with one or two other people. And it was the whole way it was set up, the whole way it was just, it was a very exclusive thing. But of course his interest was to keep it exclusive, obviously, because that was the racket he had going. But when I saw this and saw how open it is and how free, that and that having it is not some special precious, it doesn't make you some precious special vehicle that that's got incredible status of some kind. It's quite the opposite. You become less special than you were before, in a way. I mean, you realise that everyone's like you. Everyone has the same inside story. It's extremely democratic, and it's very, very exclusive, and that is an incredible relief. It's like, and it's going to get on with its work through you, at its own pace. You don't have to have a program or some kind of it's my destiny to do this, or I have to do that. It's just keep noticing it and get on with your life and watch and watch what happens. And amazing stuff happens. It's the big one just does its thing.
I was with a really wonderful teacher a couple of weekends ago, and he was describing an experience that he had of awakening, and he said, big deal. You stop beating your head against the wall.
Yeah, really.
Like, why is everyone thinking being awake is so like, oh, someday, somehow, He said, great, I stopped beating my head against the wall. How much congratulations should I deserve for that?
Like you were saying earlier today, Sam, in another meeting we had, it's incredibly shallow. Because everything else in that direction you've got to dig for. At least a little like a dog, scratch. But this is just like on the surface the whole time.
That's wonderful.
It was so easy to find, it was easy to overlook.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And it was our digging for it that made it, I mean, you do think you have to dig. And because we project ourselves as a thing, we think we're a thing full of stuff.
Right.
And there's stuff on the inside and there's stuff on the outside. Yeah, and the stuff on the inside we've got to dig through in order to get this pearl that's buried in it somewhere. It's just such a, we've got to claw our way through this psychological cesspool in order to get to our true nature, and it's just so mad.
And then the ego, hey, I've been digging for 6 years,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've been digging for 6 lifetimes,
Look, after a while you get a bit of skin in the game, you become a kind of career digger.
Yeah. Oh. What kind of shovel? What kind of shovel are you using?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I've got the best shovel actually.
No, I got a pick.
What's the lineage of your pick? I want to know. What was your pick's pick?
It's hand forged in England, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, mine's made of elfin silver, and it was dug out of a mountain in Norway. So there you go.
Damn.
I'll bow to you then.
That's more like it. Yeah, thank you. But it is amazing how that misconception of there being an inside and an outside to you, to me, it sets you up for complete, it sets you up for failure. You can't make a correct step from that way of seeing things. Anywhere you go is wrong. Anything you do is going to be wrong.
What would you say if I asked you, well, okay, but what about all my problems and that are not resolved, and my anxiety and my fear?
Sure.
We've
got 4 minutes to get through this one, Richard. Come on.
What?
We've got 4 minutes to get through that.
Maybe that should be the topic of our next hangout.
Well, I would say about that not the only way that's ever going to resolve is if you stop seeing yourself as a skin bag full of woe for a start. if you regard yourself as a kind of bag of trouble, you're never going to get rid of all the trouble in you. It's going to keep coming. Whereas if you see that there's no inside and no outside, in other words, your all of the stuff that you find problematic about yourself is out there. It's in the view out, and there's no problem here. There's no stain from where you're looking. That changes the setup so radically, and it means that these things can start to sort themselves out organically. You don't have to. You can actually have the courage to face things squarely for the first time, which is all they're asking of you. All these things that come up, all these terrors and depressions and bad feelings and stress. All they're asking is to see the light. Just see me. There's so many fairy stories about this. It's in our mythology that it's a deep clue that we've given ourselves that you don't need to do anything about this stuff. You just have to acknowledge it. Someone said evil is just unacknowledged shadow, and we just have to let this shadow come into the light. And who knows how long it's going to take, or whose shadow it is. Does one have a personal shadow, or is there just shadow stuff that we're all working on as a kind of group project? Who knows? It's great. It's a wonderful adventure. Sometimes it's deeply terrifying, but I don't mind.
Yes, for me the fear for all those problems and things is disappearing when I can just see who I am, and I think the fear is the most devastating thing there is. That's
right. It's the contraction and
yes, fear for not living up to expectations and things like that. Yeah.
And they all exist in time.
That's right. They all have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
Unlike us, or this one.
It's like you said, Bill, we're built right open, eh? And so whatever comes, and that's also problems and stresses and, well, anything. It's part of life.
Yes, and as a set of words, that can be challenged, and as an attitude, that can be challenged. But as an observation, it just happens to be true. And that's the difference, that one rests in experience. And as Richard is always saying, this is a non-verbal experience.
And we're talking about it 1 hour now.
Well, that's because it can't talk for itself. That's obvious. It's non-verbal.
So we help it.
Yeah, we have to. Where its mouth.
Or it's talking to itself now.
Yes, exactly.
So how has it been to hang out a bit together today?
Pure bliss.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Richard, you're going to archive this, right? It's going to be available on YouTube?
Yes.
I was thinking it would be nice to send a link of it to all the people who participated in the workshop we had here. Just as a nice news.
Yes. The 2 previous ones are on YouTube. I'll just keep adding them to our channel. So you'll be able to find them there. Each one is different, and the last one we had a subject, in a way, stress. This has been no particular subject, so we can play it by ear as we go on. So, well, lovely to hang out with you all and have you all in this one space. Amazing. And, yeah, and I just so appreciate the kind of what we've got, really, this way in. That's
pure love to me.
Yes, pure love. Pure love.
Well, lots of love to you all, and I will edit this and put it online. And we'll
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
That was great.
Back into the great void, yes.
Bye-bye.